Morning, good day, good evening.
All the greetings in one.
Well, you don't know when someone's watching this, right? So,
Hi there. We have an entrepreneur in the building, problem solver in studio. Oli,
What's good?
how you doing, sir?
Tops.
Look at my mic.
Sorry for keeping it informal. Like it's
the way we do.
Am I Gen Z or what? I don't know. But I'm part of the Born Freeze. Yeah.
You're the
Yeah,
Born
Born
Freeze.
So
Nice.
when we were talking about the generational intern thing just now, I'm like, you're not too far off there. But yeah,
But he's a founder. I wonder how he runs the interns in his firm.
story for another time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a founder and a problem solver in studio. If you park your car and can't find where the car is or having problems locating your car, this man has a solution for you. If you parked your car at the mall and you don't have loose change to tip the car guard, this man has a solution for you. Xolile Xaba, car park and car payments. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How's it? It's
good.
car park payments.
Okay, let's just get this one right. Who is car park and who's car park payments?
So I think it was in 2017. How old was I back then? Yeah, that's
12.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
so. That's when I came up with the idea of building an app
Yeah.
to help people locate their cars.
Okay.
I think that one, it's even till today, it's still in the app stores. It would help you find your car if you forget where you parked your car.
Right.
In 2 weeks, I wrote the code, tested the app, okay.
In 2 weeks, you wrote the code.
Yeah, but it was like
Before AI as well.
before
I'm
it
telling
was
you.
an alpha version.
Nice.
Okay.
It was still like an alpha version, riddled with bugs, all that. And then uploaded the app on Google Play.
Yeah.
And I think it was on a Tuesday, 4 a.m. And on Friday, that's Friday or Saturday, I got a call from a friend like, "Yo, your app is number 1 on Google Play." I'm like, "Oh,
Whoa.
goddamn." So, but I think I did that because back then I was still young.
Yeah.
I was still trying to learn, with like the multiple ways of learning something. I didn't want a traditional job, so I chose to build something. And I think that was my way of creating a name for myself in this tiny industry of ours.
Yeah.
And fast forward, I don't know how many years later, car park payment comes into play. And car park payment, it's like if you've just parked your car in a shopping mall and then, we always have car guards
Right.
everywhere you go in this country. Car guards do a lot. They even direct traffic because of load shedding.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any loose change, the app allows you to pay the car guard.
Although technically, these days with inflation, it should be a note at least at 10 rand or something.
I think that's exactly where the app comes into play.
Not a
because it's
coin.
Not
a coin.
Right. So
Inflation.
how did you start the first app? What inspired car park?
I was with my grandmother, and we were in a shopping mall,
Yeah.
and then it was time to look for the car, and then we stepped out of the shops, like the exit,
Yeah.
and suddenly all the cars just looked the same. Which floor were we on? Like all those kind of questions, and I had to look for the car.
So I can ask how that works then. So what does it take a snapshot location of where your car is, or do you have to activate in some way? Explain the mechanics of the app.
So what happened was you'd have to save the car's position before you exit the vehicle.
Okay.
And then when it's time to go back to your vehicle, you go back into the app and then you go to the saved location and then it would direct you back to the vehicle. Yeah, but there was a younger me then.
It's a good idea.
No, I can imagine. Look, imagine you at Orlando Stadium watching the derby, or Ellis Park.
Yeah, I
watching
think
rugby,
in
you
those
parked your
days-
car, you can't locate where you parked the
So
car.
say, for example, when you're in the shopping center, your car gets stolen. Does it still redirect you to where your car? Does it actually have a look? I suppose it wouldn't actually.
It wouldn't because
of course,
it uses GPS.
Uses your
and
phone's GPS,
Your phone's GPS. Yeah.
That would have been useful though.
I don't know. But you
The
got
car is moving.
And also, I hated hardware back then. Like,
Okay.
I'd have to have these devices, and I just hated hardware. So I was like your typical software
Right.
guy. Software guys, hardware guys, they hardly get along.
So with your CarGuard app, when I was thinking about it, I immediately was confronted by a number of logistical issues because you're dealing with money, you're dealing with banks, you're dealing with guys that may not have bank accounts, you're dealing with guys that may not even be South African. How do you think about that stuff?
So with the on the car guard side of things,
Yeah.
because we literally go to every shopping mall and then we onboard them. So what we then do is we always, if you do not have a bank account, we always ask you to install Google Wallet as well. And then we've got an API that connects.
You mean the CarGuard should do
Yeah,
that?
the car guards. Yeah, we've got an API that connects our app to Google Wallet. So that, because with Google Wallet, all you need, it works with a whole lot of payment systems that work throughout the country, Mukuru and a
PayFast
bunch
and all of those.
a bunch of others.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a solution for us with the bank account situation, especially with guys who come from other countries. It's actually easier for us to do that because we are always, let's say you've got how many car cars did they have at Spring Small? It was 50 of them.
That's Spring
So-
Small.
Spring Small, yeah. So we got there, sat down, and onboarded them one by one, and just gave them a walkthrough as to
I presume
All
some
50 of them.
yeah, all 50 of them.
I
It's
presume-
okay. It's not in one day, of course.
Okay.
I presume some of them, there must be a bit of a tech hurdle for a lot of these guys in terms of do they even necessarily have emails?
Some of them do not have emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them do not have emails. And those who have emails, they've forgotten the passwords to the emails.
Exactly.
Because if you've got an Android device, in order for you to be able to download apps on the App Store, you kind of need an email address. So
Right, you
they'd
need
be
to be
creating
signed
an
in.
email address from the top
Definitely
of
need
their
an email
heads
address,
just
yeah.
for that particular task, which kind of gives us an opportunity because we then create an email address for them specifically for this kind of operation. So we always add our name on those email addresses.
Ah,
It's going to be like
nice.
John carparkpayments@gmail.com.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So every time now this guy has a new email address, and
Yeah.
if he sends somebody an email for whatever, so like, hey, what's happening
this
with
car
car
park
park,
thing?
and then he's going to explain to them.
Sure. What a marketing strategy.
Yeah, there's definitely mechanics in that because I'm a bit of a stickler for mechanics. I like mechanics.
Look who's
I
technical today.
I like I like the workflow of process of that an app provides, right?
Yeah.
So my question for you would be okay, the onboarding of individual by individual that might be your breaking point from a building a business perspective, right? Or let me actually ask you what the business is first. How do you make money from this?
Okay, so it splits. We start tipping from 20 rands. Car guard takes 12 rands. We take 8 rands for every transaction.
Yo, that's higher percentage than App Store. What do you mean you're gonna take 40? What is that? 40%?
Is it-
Well, it's more than half. They take more than half. So
Yeah.
and it's actually so doing market research.
Yeah.
It was like we asked them. So on a typical driver, how much do they pay?
Right.
And they're like, if I'm lucky, he'll give me a 10 rands. And it
Yeah,
can be
you're
so
right.
bad in situations that they can even give you a 50 cents. Like
It's the only
this,
corner I
this,
have
this
in
is
the car.
this is like all I have. But then if you are paying out of through an app from your bank account and you've got maybe 500 rands in your current account, you it's like 20 rands
bucks is
is
not
not
much.
that much to 500 rands. So that's another angle that
Thank you.
That's a good plug. Nice one.
so that's the angle that we're looking at the
Yeah.
whole thing from.
And I could imagine paying somebody tapping maybe for like $10 would
10
just
bucks.
wouldn't make sense.
Sorry, I think I've misunderstood something on that payment structure. So, say for example, if I give a car card $20, and we do it via your app, you're saying you take $8 out of the $20.
No, they take 12 rands, we take $8.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot. All right. I
It's,
mean,
it's a
look,
split.
okay.
It's a share. It's a share, right? They split the revenues.
I guess. I mean, how long you been doing this? How long?
We launched our first shopping mall in Feb.
Okay.
No, it was in March. It was in March, beginning of March.
Much this year.
Yeah, March. This
Okay.
I suppose, yeah, you've got some time then to assess a little bit and see the pickup and kind of
Yeah.
massage the model a little bit and see how it
Yeah.
goes.
So another thing that we've learned is because it's actually a two-part process for rolling out this app. At first, you need to talk to center management. Like, okay, we've got this product, and we'd like your car guards to try it out. And if that works out, you're good. You roll out.
Oh, so you have a verification process. So you don't just onboard any car guards. They have to be affiliated with like a mall or something.
Not exactly.
Okay.
But the reason why we talk to center management is because you can't just rock up to someone's parking space and start distributing your app. There's like a structure in all these shopping malls. You'll fill up a form, like, okay, on this particular day, we're going to be
I
here.
would suggest you could definitely circumnavigate that, but I appreciate that you're trying to shoot straight with it. You know what I mean?
This is a
I would say,
citizen.
I would say it's not actually necessary.
It's not. You 100%.
Yeah.
It's not. Let me tell you what happened. Fort Lauderdale's Chris Honey Mall, your typical township shopping mall, right? And we get there. They're like, okay, center management, that side. We talk to them. They give us a form to fill in. The moment we handed in that form, the moment they saw that we were working with car guards, the interest just went like, phew.
Oh.
So, and then we went back to the guys on the ground, like, okay, guys, they've got like a foreman of some sort.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, let me tell you something. You can talk to center management, but if you can, because you're trying to follow a certain structure, if you can just, these are like consenting adults.
Yeah.
Just get here in the mornings before they start their days. They talk amongst each other. So like, just get here in the mornings, talk to these guys, ask them if they're interested in your product, and do your thing.
But this is the question I had though about going through center management. I'm just, as this particular example, I mean, there's car guards everywhere, but I mean, those car guards themselves are not necessarily stamped and approved by the center management. So I didn't really get the connection. I mean, I appreciate that you're
Are they not?
No, of course not.
Well, it's
I can rock up to a mall and be a car guard.
Depends on the center.
It depends on the kind of shopping mall. For example, Springs Mall versus Chris Honey Mall.
Right.
Chris Honey Mall, it was laid back, But Springs Mall, it was more formal.
Okay.
The security company that's responsible for Springs Mall is also responsible for the car guards.
At least maintaining order to some respect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's very important to talk to the people first so that you know the kind of structure.
No, I get it.
Okay.
It is
Because you wanna
it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, you don't want to get kicked out as well. Like, yo,
Right.
stop operating your app. You didn't talk to us. What is this? You're like a vendor. Like, what is this?
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I think about car guards a lot because I've always confronted by car guards, and the issue with car guards is like there's as a valid means of earning money.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're not necessarily providing a service. A lot of the time they're there because they're hustling for cash, which is fine. I get that. And if they're just there and they're kind of standing there all day in the sun, yeah, sure, you give them some cash, but they're just doing what they're trying to do, But there's always that gap of validation in terms of they're not responsible for your car. They're not responsible for paying rent to where they're at. The economics of a car guard are different than normal.
Yeah, security.
Well, no, I don't mean security, just normal means of operating a business.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like your app, in my regard, almost has there's a step of validation there, which is nice. So even for someone that hates paying car guards, if you see a car guard with almost like with a clean bib that's provided via the center or something like that, even though they're not getting paid via the center, they're kind of authorized to be there in some regard. There's like a check and balance with the security of the center. So there's almost like there's a step of validation there. And if they've got a QR code and saying pay me here, it also provides almost another step of validation to say, look, I'll be very interested in chat to you like a few months' time to see like, okay, how's this been picked up? How's it working for the car guards? Are they finding they're making more cash? Because in terms of paying a car guard, if you're seeing these steps of validation, you know what I mean by that in terms of like they're almost the steps of approval or
Right.
their space. There's some sort of checks and balances to them being there. It enables a sense of responsibility. It enables a sense of, okay, I'm happy to pay this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if you were thinking about that kind of stuff with your app or no.
Definitely, but also as to how to approach the whole thing, we had to be really careful because, as you said, they do not have any formal contract with the shopping malls.
Right.
There's also how do I say this? That also plays against them and me as well to a certain degree, because if they do not have a formal contract and then center management is not happy with this app being used here, they can easily just be let go and nothing's going to happen to anyone. You can't even take them to the CCMA.
But does it matter if they don't like the app being used? Like, I don't really understand. What's it to center management whether they're using an app or not?
It's sometimes it's just people being people.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it makes the car guard more efficient.
It's sometimes,
you
like I'm
can
saying.
see who was here, who's not here.
Yeah, there's traceability to some
Right.
extent.
Accountability as well.
It's people just being people sometimes.
Assholes.
Exactly, assholes. So just being people, and we actually went through something similar,
So,
like something
yeah.
close to what we're talking about.
Okay.
In one of the shopping malls. Okay, that guy is now, like, I haven't heard from him in a very long time.
Oh.
He was like, I think he misunderstood the product because he thought car guys would be carrying like physical devices.
That's what I initially thought, though.
No,
Yeah.
the QR codes are attached on
Yeah,
their
I got that, yeah.
reflectors.
Right.
So he thought they'd be carrying physical machines, and that did not sit well with him. And he was like, "I'm not interested." And
So,
then
That's
Sure.
interesting.
Yeah.
Are you, when somebody subscribes to the app, are you giving them a reflector with a QR code?
The car guards.
Yeah.
Oh no, we rock up there. We print our own. Yeah, something like that. We print so like I said, if there are 50 car guards at Springs Mall,
Right.
these guys will sign up, and then as they sign up, the QR code gets generated via the app.
Sure.
And then we just like send me this QR code as a PDF format, your
Sure.
name, your surname, and we then print out the QR codes and then we give it to the car
Oh,
guards.
then they can print it wherever they
they
want to
can-
print it.
I have so many questions. So let me roll back a little bit in terms of how you're building this out. So you have an interest now, due to your high percentage of what you take of the taking.
This man has a problem.
Nah, it's fine. But my point is, how to scale that up though? Like your work to actually scale that up is quite a lot. If you've got to physically go there and chat to individual by individual by individual, your scalability is a little bit limited there. I mean, you could keep on going day to day, and you could eventually build at some scale. But my point is the work involved to actually scale out the number of guys using your app. It's quite a lot. So that's question number one. Do you have any plans in the future to make that a little bit easier so you don't have to physically go and speak to individual by individual? And the second one would be like, I'm less concerned about what we were just talking about in terms of that particular car guard or a particular car guard having some relation to a mall. I mean, ideally, that car guard then, if he works at two places, he can just go to the second place with the same QR code. It doesn't matter. Like I would like to see this be in a space where, wherever you find guys, they're just like, oh, this is an easier way to pay me. Boom, they're on your app. They've got emails. For me, that's like, I would rather see that around on the streets of the city, like guys in a QR code, because they're kind of plugged into a system in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at me with like you're not quite.
No, I get you. I get you. So with the question about scaling up, because we're still in the beginning,
Right.
it's quite viable for us to do it the way we've been
Yeah,
doing.
sure.
But we're also looking at kind of automating the whole onboarding process, and that's so hard because even if you look at two-part way apps that have existed way before us, look at the likes of Uber, for example. When they onboard you as a driver, you physically have to be there at the green light hub.
Yeah.
So if like we're also looking at it that way, if these guys are going on about it this way, could it be that for these kind of products that's the way of doing it, or is there a better way of doing it? For example, we can just put up an advert, like on a billboard ad on near some shopping mall, and car guards see this app, they download the app for themselves. Could we do something like that? That's something we've been talking about.
Yeah.
You know.
Or even if like you're in the parking lot, you're a car guard, your buddies are car guards, you're on the app and your buddies aren't. It should be an easy way to say, hey, look, you can join this app. This you need email, whatever your steps are. Here's like a QR code on their phone or whatever. You know, there's a means to do it because they may not all have phones. They might not all have email addresses. Should be a way for like, oh, I'm on the app. I know how it works. Here, let me get you onboarded.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but it should be as easy as WhatsApp. How many people have
Ideally.
WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
Most everyone has WhatsApp, and people that have WhatsApp are having phones, are having Android phones with email addresses.
yeah,
This wouldn't
definitely.
be any different.
You're concerned about these questions, I can
No, not even. Like I love questions.
Right,
As- you know,
right,
you,
right.
you know, you can ask me questions about tech. I'm always willing to answer those questions. But then if you were to ask me questions about celebrities,
No, I get,
I'm focused. It's the concerned face is
Yeah, you zoned in. This man is
The
locked
source
in.
of my questions is really just because I'm always thinking about, okay, cool. I think it's a cool idea. It's just how you think about scale and how does this roll out
Yeah.
really? Because you want to almost be in a space where, oh, great idea, now it kind of rolls out naturally on its own. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, but
suddenly there's like
exactly.
If you look at
thousands
it
upon
now,
thousands of dudes.
If you look at it
And
now,
you're
I think
still packing
that's
40% of what everyone makes, which is
Exactly.
what's wrong with you in this 40%.
No, and you know, like that's you like from consumer perspective.
Yeah,
You are the first consumer who's worried about
the
the
40%.
No, but it scales up, right? Like now it
Yeah.
may not be a lot, but if you're in a space where now there's thousands of car guards across the country
Yeah.
using your app, and they're making $150, maybe $200 a day, at some point they're going to be like, "The fuck am I giving away 40% of what I'm earning for?" And because it doesn't cost you anything to once they're on board, it doesn't really cost you anything. I mean,
Yeah.
So at some point, someone's going to say 40% is a lot, dude.
Okay, like if like 40% is a lot,
Hopefully,
then
it's after you've made millions. But
Okay.
I mean,
question is how much will you I think our plan is to evaluate everything at the end of Q2. So question if somebody says 40% is everything. Question is, okay, bro, how much were you making before our 40%? That's the
Right.
question. If you feel like you can make more money off the app,
Yeah.
we are willing to use
And I
you.
doubt they could.
We are willing to use you as a subject of learning.
Right.
For that.
Yeah, I mean, I say these things in all fairness, knowing that you're in assessment period and figuring it out and how it
Yeah.
rolls out. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, it's interesting to think about how that scales up. I mean, you could potentially make, if this works, you could potentially make loads of cash, which is good, not a bad thing.
I mean, I'm even thinking of investing.
Yeah, give me the money.
Hey man, I'll sell.
Yeah,
I'll
give me
sell
the
him.
money.
If I have to.
That's another topic. Hey,
Right.
like,
And how have you been funding the businesses from the car park one to car park payments?
I think with
How have you
like
been doing it?
the first app, Car Park, it was getting a lot of traction. You know,
Is it?
And back for those days,
Yeah?
and people would get funded for some ridiculous ideas. You know.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that a gentleman called Suraj. Ah man, bless that man.
Suraj.
Yeah, Suraj. He was all the way in. Was he in Mumbai or Boston? But I know that his company is based in Boston.
Yeah.
And he was like,
He's got money?
I saw your app, and we've got an accelerator program running in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And if you work with us, like we make an investment in your app, both cash and like as part of being your advisors to your company.
Yeah.
And that's how Car Park, the car finding app, was actually funded. And then like I joined a whole lot of incubator programs, which is something that we can also talk about.
Right.
My experiences being part of incubators. And then with Car Park payments, we were like, okay, we've done this thing. We've spoken to the relevant stakeholders.
Yeah.
How exactly do we get the money for this? Because people need to be paid.
Right.
Office space needs to be paid for hosting AWS. Oh, God damn it, Bezos.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, like those kind of overheads.
Every
So-
instance is a charge.
Exactly. So I was like, I always get people and businesses who want to build something. Why? And I've always turned them down. Like, no,
Oh,
I'm good.
you turned down money.
No, like the thing is, the money comes with like hard labor,
Yeah.
and
You gotta assess your time.
exactly. You need to split your time. Something
You
like,
guys say no to money?
but
If it takes you off
if it
path
takes
you're
you
on,
off
yeah.
path, you gotta you have to say no to certain.
You
things.
don't create path for that money. You say no, it's not on my
But
path.
you're gonna like there was a time when I was working 2 jobs,
Yeah.
my own app, and then I was also a software developer for a New York based company. That was a brilliant experience, but it was taxing mentally, physically,
Yeah.
So, but then now that we had this particular idea to work on, and I've always had these people come to me, now it was a time to go back and say, hey, let's do this. And
Interesting.
And you can only do that because you spent the time working on it.
exactly.
This is when you
Aye,
mentioned
don't leave
earlier,
money on the table.
This is why when you mentioned earlier today, you said, you're trying to avoid a normal job. And I was like, that's exactly the space I'm in at the moment. I'm trying to
Yeah.
avoid getting a normal job because
Exactly.
that's stuff I want
And,
to focus on.
you know-
I know, I've got grays, man. I've been around the mill.
Kind of
I've been around the block a few times, and like I know, despite all the stuff I want to do on my personal side of things, whenever I take on a job, that always falls away because you have to. As soon as you start a job, you feel the
That
need
just
to be
seems
good
like
at
you
your
two
job.
are not managing your time very well. Rather
Not
sleep at 3
even.
o'clock
No,
in the
you do,
morning,
you
man.
keep
Work.
doing the stuff, but it's like you at some point you keep distracting because your job becomes your primary source of income.
Exactly. Focus.
It becomes your focus point. But it's also when you're in a position,
You-
you have to be good at that position. You can't just go and take the piss at a job. You
It's
gotta
it's
be good
not
at your job.
just about doing the job. I believe
about-
that
it's
if
about
you need
work
to do
ethic.
something, you need to do it extremely well.
Yeah,
You need
within
to
the
do it
given
extremely
time
well.
frame, right?
So if my focus is split between, running a business is crazy. Running a business is
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. So if I'm going to take on something else, I need to be able to do this with my eyes closed. Unfortunately, you can't build software with your eyes closed.
There's
So
ChatGPT.
I feel like it's oversimplified.
True, true, true.
ChatGPT is very useful.
Yeah.
But in
If
the
you know
software
what you're doing,
industry,
yes,
if you know
yes.
what you do, but we oversimplify it in the software industry.
All right.
I love it.
My follow up to that was to try and get to understanding what your funding model has been for the longest of time. It sounds like an investor approached you, not the other way around. Did you approach the guy in the what did you call him?
Was it
Suraj.
Boston.
Yeah, did you approach him or did he approach
He
you?
approached me, but
Lucky man.
the thing is, I was way younger back then. Didn't have a lot of bills.
Yeah.
If I could do just about anything on the side. He approached me, and that worked. Unfortunately,
that's great. Yeah, yeah.
times changed. The global economy was in a different position back then.
Yeah.
People had ridiculous amounts of money to spend on things that
Yeah.
they believed in. Now, things have changed. There isn't a lot of money.
There's Trump at the helm. so
Exactly. There
there's
isn't a lot of
change.
money floating around. And
After him, how did you fund the business?
Do you pitch for funding or how did?
Yeah, I've pitched for funding. We've pitched for funding, and then we've won here and there with funding, and then I'd say out of 10, we've won twice. And also, being young allows you to filter the kind of funding that comes your way. Because you don't necessarily just I need the money now. I've got a baby to feed. I've got this and that to take care of. So for a very long time, as an entrepreneur, I was not driven by getting funding. I like building things that allow me to sell something. With the car parking app, it was getting a lot of traction, and the adverts were doing quite well for it.
Oh.
So to a certain degree, it could self-sustain, which is the same approach I'm trying to take with this one. Because when we realized that, okay, we're going to need X amount of money for starting up, I went back to the guys who approached me. And my favorite was this farm that is based in Pietermaritzburg. Oh, man, love those guys. They're like, okay, this is what you're trying to do in our farm. Can you build an app that does exactly this for us? And okay, how much are we talking? We agreed on the figures. I'm like, okay, we're almost there with the goal. We're not exactly there, but we can work with this. And built that app for them. They paid us the money. We funded our business, and because we're still starting up, obviously, you want the right kind of funding that's going to allow you to make your mistakes and grow as you go along. You don't want a loan shark kind of funding. And I don't function well with tight deadlines because I like the freedom of creativity.
You want to, exactly. You want to reflect.
There's a hell of a price to pay for that. There's a hell of a price to pay for that.
You got to reflect. You got to think about what you're doing.
You guys are so similar in many ways.
You
leave money on the table.
It's not. It's not. When you're talking about the business,
but your sights on bigger money. That's the thing.
I once had a conversation with the CEO of Yoko, Katle Mapai, and this was maybe like just before COVID. I was with Suraj when this happened. Shortly after my time with Suraj, after we met, and he was like, rather than take money from the wrong investor, close that business down. It's not worth it. At that time, I didn't.
Leaving money on the table. That's exactly what he's doing. And because he's got sights on a bigger picture and bigger money and a more and calmer demeanor. You don't want the wrong money on the table. That's kind of what you said.
Because it's like if you ever take the wrong money, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
Look, you're gonna pay with. You might not pay financially, but you're gonna pay with way more than that. I mean, he even made look at all. I also came to a conclusion that look at all these businesses that were properly funded, but somewhere down the line they went burst.
Well, guys, balance me here. What does taking the wrong money look like? So
this coming from a guy who lives in Hillbrow, you must know about these stories.
Exactly, it's exactly that kind of story.
Come on, man.
It's exactly that kind of story. I think it also.
This is business. This is a bit more formal than my neighbor in Hillbrow.
It also depends on how you look at money. If you look at money as money allows me to build.
Right.
Your approach is going to be extremely different than someone who looks at money. Money allows me to feed my family. Money allows me to
but then
buy this kind of
you're not a
sports car.
business person. You're looking for a loan to finance your personal life. I'm thinking, yes,
exactly.
You're a shady investor, but we have a contract here that says you're going to give me money to put the money in my business.
In my experience with contracts, doesn't always work. It's like it's more commission than it's work.
But have you ever had to work with people that you don't like?
Yes.
That's hell, man.
Of course. But
Exactly.
because there's a goal at the end of this rubbish relationship, you stick it out.
But I need to be with you every single day of my life.
100%, but for a limited amount of time. After 2 years, it's done.
Do you know the amount of time you spend at work?
Yes.
Think about it. You go there and you just want to
Ish.
push this person over the cliff. No, not
All
like
right,
that.
let's move on from the money on the table.
Yeah, let's move on from the money. On the table.
So you mentioned
One day I'll get there.
You mentioned, I read it somewhere, you made a news app. Which was that news app? I might be familiar with it actually.
Oh man,
Many
He
years ago.
made Twitter before Twitter.
that was way back in the day. I was in grade 12.
Okay. I mean, you just built out a platform for RSS feeds essentially. So you just got the feeds from.
Yeah.
I suppose this was before the days of all the news organizations going behind subwalls and things like that.
Yeah, that was way back in the day.
What inspired that?
I was a news addict myself. As for a teenager, that was a bit weird. I was, when kids rush home to play PlayStation, all that. I would rush home to watch E-News. It was E-News back then, not
E-News,
ENCA. It was E-News, CNN, and which other one? Yeah, but I used to I enjoyed watching the news. Wow. So problem was
Not cartoons.
And
I
was
hated
it picked up? Was it used? What year are we talking about here?
we're talking 2013, 12.
Yeah, that was a time for news
That
apps, yeah.
was a long time ago.
That was, that
the
was-
beginning of when Android was still new in South Africa.
Was it picked up? Was it used out? Or?
Not as much, not the way I expected.
Okay.
It was used by people in my circle, people who knew me, and it kind of defeats the whole purpose.
But you still learned something from it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It was like a brilliant learning curve, because it was those years when I was about to leave high school, coming to Joburg, from KZN coming to Joburg. So I was so convinced that this is such a brilliant idea. It's going to make me billions. I'm about to be a billionaire, and so building that, I came to Joburg and, I went to so many media houses
Oh.
in the city, And I think that experience of literally kicking down the doors, like, I'll send you an email, you don't reply, I'll be in your offices the following day. That was
you.
That was me. Yeah.
Damn.
That was me as a teenager. So I think that somehow taught me how to sell. It taught me that, okay, out of 20 people, only 2 might be willing to listen.
Sure, yeah.
And if I'm lucky, it's going to work out with the first one, and it might not work out with the other one. So yeah, I think it built that spirit of persevering. I think that's the one thing that it did.
What were you hoping to achieve with it? What problem were you sort of solving with that particular app?
So the magic was that it would like generate news articles via RSS feed, and then it would summarize them up until like 250 characters.
You just took the top
stories, and then it would summarize
top
them.
of the story. Yeah.
I battled with that because I was always rushing to school when like it's time to read the news, and I don't have time to go through a million paragraphs.
Right.
So that's what I was like, okay, I've got a lot of teenagers who can't concentrate that much when reading articles. So it's just to give them an idea what the article is about, and then it covers like all the angles. That's
so it gave you the ability to consume a lot of news.
I think it got messed up when I started adding like a bunch of features.
What features did you add?
So because usually it would be like business news.
Yeah.
So I was like, what if we built like a business chat room within the site? And what if we built a business chat? At first it would be like your normal chatting, like people are interested in the article, and then I was like, no.
You're just gonna get spam, man.
Exactly.
You're gonna get 95% of each.
And
like
you know
porn
what's crazy was that I'd actually built these things. It would not just be ideas. I'd sit down and hard code them, and then I was like, "What if
you could code?"
Yeah, I could. And this was like, I used to go to the library weekends, like to get books on C++, C# for the back end.
Proper nerd credentials, huh?
I'm telling you.
I used to like
not bad.
weekends. I'm off to the library.
Well done.
And so yeah, that
Well
was
done on being a nerd.
You found the one open library in Joburg. Nice one.
Oh, this started way back in KZN. There was just one library in my neighborhood.
Oh, you're in Newcastle.
I was in Newcastle. Yeah, there was. Damn! You did your research. You know that I was in Newcastle. So there was one library in town, and
In Newcastle, one library.
yeah, in town, just one library, and then like I'd go there. Luckily, people didn't like reading back then, so you wouldn't find it wouldn't be crowded unless if there's an assignment that is due on Monday for a certain particular school, then all the kids are there for that weekend.
So, I mean, you said a few things in this conversation about perseverance. Kind of, you started quite young. You're doing your things. What would be your viewpoint in terms of you take your immediate surroundings and the guys that are around you or the individuals that are around you, wanting to be in the space, wanting to build apps, wanting to thinking there's revenue there, there's businesses to be built there. What's your general viewpoint of the culture around you? Is there energy? Is there not energy? Are people struggling? Or they're not struggling in your tech building space?
So I've surrounded myself with even people who are not in the tech space. So it differs on where exactly do I go. And as the time goes on, when I started in Newcastle back then, I was the only guy who spoke about coding.
Sure.
And the energy would be negative around that. Obviously, like why would you do that to yourself? That kind of thing. And but as we grew older and we did the work, and then we got the recognition, the attitude started changing. I mean, I'd be going to some local supermarket to buy an energy drink, and some drunk guy would just rock up to me and start talking about an app idea that he has. So, I think that's a positive shift.
Right.
It means people are learning. People can see that, okay, it's actually possible to do this thing. So I think in terms of the energy around me, I can't complain about that.
Yeah.
Even
people are generally receptive of the technology.
Now they are, yeah.
Okay.
Now they are.
Okay.
I think I made it through because when you are a child, you always think you are right and they are wrong. And that was me. Like, I'm right tech the way you guys suck. You don't know anything. Like, that was my attitude back then. It kind of worked because it gave me the energy to go on. But as I get older, I'm getting a more positive reception from even people who are not in the tech industry. I've got a friend of mine. Oh, by the way, I studied a BCom Law and majored in accounting and business management.
What?
Yep. I had a friend of mine who we were in the same class.
Yeah.
And the following year, he was like, all right, man, I'm going into tech. I'm dropping this law thing. And today, he works for one of the biggest insurance companies in their tech department. So I think, and I always tell him that, Ashley, you need to give me a share of your salary. I inspired you to do this.
It wasn't for me, we wouldn't have that job.
Exactly.
Ashley, you had it.
Should
Give
have-
this man a portion of his
which
salary.
camera must I talk to?
That one.
Ashley, ngifuna imali yami. You owe me. Like, that salary you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll leave it there for now.
Should have had a contract. Man. That's all.
How did you switch though from BCom Law to tech?
So I think BCom Law was more of security. Like, my parents were like, okay, he's studying something that my heart has always been in tech. So I think that one was for the parents, the tech was for me. And throughout, I know, like, tech has always been there. I can't recall a time in my adult life when I was not doing anything in tech. So yeah. And also, BCom Law was like something new, I was like, because we had law modules, stuff that I knew nothing about. So that's something new to conquer. Like, was learning new terms, the necessitous fiction, and like 7 elements of like a crime,
Of a crime.
is it 7 or more than that? But like the kind of things that you need to tick if you want to convict a criminal. Those kind of things. So,
Okay.
so it was something new to learn about. It was always like keeping me on my toes. Like, wow, okay, this is. But I couldn't see myself living that life.
Interesting.
I think you made the right choice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't regret it.
So what's next for you? I mean, what period are you giving yourself with this new app with the car guard? So, like, are you saying, okay, we're going to give it the year and suss it out, or is there something else you're already working on? What's next for you? What's going on?
It's very hard for me to attach time to anything that I do because time has a brain of its own. I might say,
I don't know. The time at the end of the month, the time the bills come, it's pretty standard for me. I get your
but
point.
I'm like, I might say, we're gonna give this business 2 years to see how well it does, and in the 2 years we might do so well that, it's something that we felt like we could have achieved in 5 years. Whereas we might do so bad in a way that we feel like quitting, but not knowing that in the 3rd year, that's when things will start picking up. So I always just let.
Oh, you don't. Yeah, you can know that now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I always just let, and that has been like my approach since I turned 20 to just, let time do its thing. Time is a decider on its own. Just put in the work and let time do its thing.
So this is my personal opinion, so bear with me. But if you're this CarGuard app, if you eased up the onboarding, if you made it as easy as possible for an individual to onboard themselves into this app as a CarGuard, this is their hustle, this is what they're doing. Not even just outside of the app, the mechanics of the app. If you fix the onboarding, it'll make it easier. I find your scalability will suddenly start ballooning a little bit, because I don't think there's a current. I could be wrong. I don't think there's a current something out there that does enable these kind of payments. I know guys do sometimes walk around with their card machines, but they've done that themselves, right? They've done that themselves. They've got a bank account and so on and so forth. They've gone through those hoops and balances. But if you, in this particular space, it does, for some reason, psychologically, for me paying a car guard, psychologically, if I'm paying them via an app and I'm saying I'm scanning their code and I'm saying and I'm monitoring, seeing the process of them being legitimized in a way, a payment for that particular service, regardless of whether you see that as a service or not, or whatever the mechanics of that ecosystem go. I think psychologically, I prefer that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, not because, I don't want to give them cash. It's just because, often I don't really have cash. But besides that, it's like because you're within an ecosystem that's traceable, and there's a payment being made digitally. There's a psychological hurdle there that just legitimize to an extent the service they're providing. That's just my particular viewpoint on it. But I think there's a scalability there. So it will work for the car guard, this particular app, but it also would work, in my view, in the general relationship between a car guard and the car parker. Like there's a relationship there that could be smooth a little bit better. And that's why I'm thinking there's scalability there.
Okay. Yeah, I think thank you for giving me that. It's something to
It's my
definitely
philosophical approach,
And just to piggyback off of that, imagine if I could park, again, perhaps the question should be, what other problems are you solving for the car park guys? Generally, if I park a car, if somebody helps me or sees me park a car, right, they will come and try help me park my car so that I notice them, so that I know that they are watching my car. When I come back, they expect something. Now, what tends to happen is you park your car, you see this guy see you, he sees you see him. You go out. When you come back, there's a different guy. Because perhaps in this parking bay, there's like 4 guys who are parking cars. Now, they tend to fight over the car. Is there a way within the app where you could go, this car guard is on my car, so when I come back, I know who I'm tipping?
To be honest with you, we haven't really thought that much.
Yeah.
Because what happens now is the moment you scan the QR code, it's like something pops up, and then because you're in conversation with the car guard, they verify their name and, okay, this is me. And then that's how you make sure that the payment is going to the right person.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, it's in terms of knowing if this is the car guard who washed my car, it's kind of tricky, because this is a transaction. This is like the last thing you do before you exit the shopping mall. So I think that's where the challenge lies, because this transaction is it's literally the last thing that happens. Like, it's the last interaction you're gonna have with the shopping mall infrastructure.
Right.
So that's also something to consider. I like that you guys are coming up with like suggestions. That hardly happens. So like when you do already interviews, like, oh, what? Really? And then you move on to the next question.
Yeah, I mean, to his question about scalability, you're creating convenience for the guy that parks the car to be able to pay the car guard, right? And in a way, you're also creating convenience for the car guard to collect the money. But what other issues are you then going to solve for the car guard guy? Or for me, as I park the car, the question then becomes, what issues are there for me parking a car? Chances are there isn't much, just security, which the mall possibly takes care of. But for the car guard, what other challenges are they facing there in the parking lot on a daily basis? So much so, if you solve those, add them on the app, it's now more than just me being able to receive money, but now there are a number of problems that this thing solves for me. If I'm from Zimbabwe and this thing is integrated with Muguru, can I send money home?
Oh, nice.
Okay. Those are really
Stage 2.
Stage 2. Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, it's
No,
so.
I'm just saying, right? In terms of scalability, there are a number of possible
I'm glad that
things.
it's taking this approach, and I think as entrepreneurs, something that we struggle with, and we've touched on this, it's you need to be clear on the problem that you are solving.
Right.
And the quickest way to fail is to solve a dozen problems right in the beginning.
Yes.
Because people always look at, I'm going to give you an example, like Facebook.
Yeah.
Are they called Meta now? What are they called?
Yeah, it's Meta now.
It's like,
For a while.
Yeah, until it changes to something better.
so for them, when you look at a product like that, if you're looking at it with 2025 eyes,
Yeah.
you'll be like, oh, these guys are doing so much. If there are natural disasters wherever you are, you can mark yourself safe, and your friends and relatives will know that you're safe.
Yeah.
You can check in at AMPD studios. I mean, in the beginning, it was a completely different platform. Their core mission was to focus on connecting people.
Yeah.
So I think
Now it has a marketplace.
Exactly. Now it has a marketplace as well. See, I feel like I love ideas, and I always say it's going back and working on ideas. It's like the kind of loyalty that you have on yourself and your business. But it's also important in the beginning stages to make sure that you're focusing on a problem. You've got a problem that you're focusing on, and that particular problem, and you get paid to solve that problem. So, like, I love the ideas, and I always, even with this particular car park payments, it came from way back, like the car finding app days. People would make a whole lot of suggestions that, you can do this, you can do that. And to prove that I actually live by that, today I'm doing something that was suggested way back in the day.
So is this a fintech kind of technology, or is it just a normal payment
It's
gateway?
categorized as fintech. And, I always said that I'd like to play in the ed tech space or the fintech space later in my life. And so I think at the moment you can say fintech has won. But I still find
one foot in.
Yeah, exactly. I know a whole lot of cool ed tech companies, and they're doing some brilliant work. Even with fintech as well, I think I also have a particular interest in fintech, which makes it easy for me to love what I do, to wake up every morning and say, okay, let's build this thing.
Yeah. And what regulations and red tapes do you have to go through in making sure that your fintech company is scalable and primarily succeeds, from FICA to anti-money laundering regulations and rules?
Number one, with like the modern technologies, something that I really love about them. They've tried so hard to eliminate the red tape that was there in freaking 1999, because some guy in the street can just build a payments app and distribute it. I think it becomes more complex when you start.
In other words, he's saying he hasn't done the paperwork yet. He's just.
I think it becomes more complex when you start with like your traditional trading apps. But we are currently experiencing some red tape right now because we're not compliant with like the app store's privacy policy. And they
tied to Poppy or tied to what?
Payments.
Or to payments. Okay.
So I think, and in a way, as much as it's such a tedious process, I'm glad that it's happening this way, because they want to make sure that the user's data is safe.
Yeah.
No one is snooping in the
no money laundering and all of that stuff.
So the downside of it is that they are so serious. If you are not compliant, they're going to take down your app until you comply.
That's why I couldn't find his app this morning.
Exactly.
Oh.
So like,
when did they take it down?
On today is Monday. Took it down on Thursday.
Oof.
So like it's you always have to comply. And this is not an unfamiliar problem. I went through it when I was trying to update the car finding app, like way back in the day. But that was a minor issue. This time it's more serious, and literally every day I'd be sending something, and then they're like,
Wait, you said you're uploading my client tomorrow. You're onboarding a client, tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
How are you going to get around that?
Nah, we have to sort it out tonight. There's no other way. So as I'm sitting here right now, I'm waiting for a response that was last night's upload successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's indicated we only have a few minutes, but I have another philosophical point I want to share very quickly. So with this car guard app. So the problem it's solving for me is not the payments and so forth. I think you've got a handle on that. But the interesting part for me is because one, I think about car guards a lot for some reason. But so it's
are you
no, because I think about
were you once one?
No.
Do you want to be one?
No, I think about it because the mechanics of how that works, it's not legitimized. So in the sense that particular car guard, for example, he's not renting that space. He's not running. It's not essentially a mechanic of a normal business would think. If he's going to be sitting there, there's no accountability. He's not responsible for your car effectively, right? If your car gets stolen, it's not his fault.
Right.
It's not his problem. He's not accountable for it. Even though as an individual, he may feel accountable to it and do his job properly. But my point is, it's not technically a job.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't fall into ecosystem of that. There's not those checks and balances that a job, quote unquote, comes with. So my feeling would be like, okay, if the scalability is there, and this is why it's so important to me thinking about the legitimacy of an app or being registered in some way, even though it's not technically registered as a location, as a job, you're still registered as an email, as an ecosystem, and that's what I think where the psychologically for the payer, for the car parker, there's still that tick of legitimacy. So I mean, ideally, you want to be in a space where, fine, the car guard's making X amount, you're taking X amount. There may be a layer on top of that, stage 3, stage 4, whereby the location, whether it's a particular mall or something like that, you want to legitimize it in a way that that individual now is paying to be there, whether it's like 1-2%, whatever the case may be. Paying it to the location, again, that further enables the legitimacy of them doing a job there because they're actually investing into that, them building a business with that. So there's sort of layers of legitimacy that could be enabled by an app like this.
I mean, it's an informal sector, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
This is a way to formalize that sector.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, I think this is what actually makes me wake up every morning and go to work, because like you're playing in this informal sector, and like so many of these people are untraceable in any of our systems, and it feels rewarding to be the guy who's actually made it his life
You're
mission
helping people,
to do
essentially.
that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the project 2 years down the line.
All right, call me back in 2 years
It's
and
not
let's
too
talk.
late to invest, eh? Put the
He
angle.
doesn't want funny money.
Oh, you don't want
What do you mean I want funding money? I said I want the right kind of funding. Do you have the right kind of funding?
We're bad money.
Oh yeah, if you all have bad
We're the
money,
wrong
then
money.
I'm gone.
So if I'm the good money,
Let's
I'm
talk.
coming.
As soon as the cameras go off,
Yeah?
talk to me. I'm
Nice.
always up for good money.
But thanks, man. That was
That's
a good
good money
chat.
thing.
Thanks for coming in. I enjoyed talking about it. Yeah, it was good.
Thanks for having me.
Any parting shots to any aspiring developers, guys who want to get into the space, what they need to know, how they need to move around?
As I get older, I struggle with that question.
Ah,
I'm like, guys,
Just do your work.
if you feel like waking up, wake up. If you don't feel like it, don't wake up. I'm kidding. Like, I feel like you always graduate at whatever it is that you do.
yeah.
So whatever it is that you think is worth it, go on and give it your all. Eventually, you graduate. You might not succeed in that particular project, but you'll never know who you're going to meet because of what you're doing. So, my parting shot, go on, guys. Just go on.
And by tomorrow, we'll have the link to the app, and we can leave it in the descriptions below for people to
Definitely.
download.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Xaba,
Awesome.
thank you so much. That's been the Angle Podcast. We'll leave the details to the car parking app and the descriptions below. Please tip the car guards. There is now a better way to do so. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.